As a geologist, one thing I love to do was to consider gold as the ultimate beautiful metal. The reason for that, it's nice and bright yellow. Second, it doesn't tarnish. And that was part of what I had to do in when I was an exploration geologist. So here you have a small bottle. Is this bottle right here? It looks tiny. And the reason why it's always interesting to see. So these are flakes of gold. What's interesting with gold is that you can put it very, very thin. So you can just compress it and you end up with very, very thin layers of gold. And in the past, or even now, we use these layers of gold to put over statues to end up with golden statues. So we don't have big statues made of gold. It would be too expensive. However, we can take layers of gold with a little brush and put those. So here's an example, and I'm going to show you samples I've collected and I've gathered as a geologist. So the first sample is this one right here. And this sample here, let's see if I can remember where it was from. So this was, I'm going to need my glasses. So this one was from Granada Mine in the Rouen Township. So if I remember well, it was part of a conference. We went there and this was one sample I took. So here you could see little specks of gold inside this vein of quartz. So often when we look at native gold, it's within quartz fractures filled with quartz like this. So what happened is that you had a break in the rock, then you had some hydrothermal fluid that went through, and it gets to a point where either change of temperature or change of pressure made the gold deposit in this area right here. So it's quite nice, and you'll see I have several pictures to show you this morning. So this is the first sample I have, and you can see the little specks here and here. Can I make it bigger just for you? There we go. Can I make it even bigger? There we go. So when we look at gold nuggets, for example, so sometimes we see prospectors, we see different people going and using a pan to sift, to find some gold in creeks and river. Often these are from quartz veins like this. So over the millions of years, what happens is that this erosion, these rocks here, they break down. As you can see, there's little fractures over the years, over the decades, the centuries, the millions of years. They break down, and then you end up with little free gold that are available. This gold here doesn't dissolve in water in the creeks. It's very malleable. So what happens is that you have someone panning for gold, and if they see gold nuggets that are very rounded, that means that they've traveled quite a bit. However, if they look at pieces of gold and they are angular, that means that the gold is not from very far, and that's sometimes clues for people looking for it. So this is the first sample I wanted to show you today. Let's see the other sample I have here. So this sample here was from a mine. So the company is Agnico Eagle. If I remember well, it's a mine I visited. It was LaRonde mine. And here what it is, you end up with a mine that is looking for gold and copper associated with sulfur and disseminated. That means there's little specks of gold associated with those two metals. So what happens is that in this example, there was a fracture in the rocks. We had hydrothermal fluid going through and deposited here along that fracture gold here. So in this sample, in the previous sample, there's not much, it's not worth a lot because those small nuggets here, they're less than 0.5 grams, even less than that. So even though you say, well, the price of gold is more than $2,000 an ounce, however, given that there's 34 grams per ounce, that means that the value is not very much. However, with respect to gold in its natural state, I think it's always exciting. And these samples here I collected when I was a geologist, and back in the days, the gold price was about around $300 an ounce. So you could see how much it increased. So here you have this fracture here, and you have here the logo here of Agnico Eagle. Let's see if I can show it to you. There you go. That was from the conference. And you could see here the small speck of gold. Here, when they cut the rock, you could see how the gold just swirled because gold is very, very soft. So this is my second sample. So these samples are ones that I've carried. This is one of among the best memories from me as a geologist. It's always nice to share that with you. The other sample I have for you is the following. So here are the three samples I chose for you today. So these were the three. We looked at the first two here out of focus, and we're going to look at this this third one right here. This was from an old mine in the Matachewan area in Ontario. We're doing mineral exploration in that area. I had heard that there was an old mine there. However, I did not know where there was some rocks. So there was some pile of rocks on the side of the road. So I picked a few, and I was able to find some of those. So here, that was probably there before the road was built. It was probably just how can I say that? A bush road, like for logging, when that was. So the gold was found in quartz veins like this. What's interesting is that if you look, the quartz vein is not very big. So if I show you the sample, you're going to see, well, there's so much gold. Those samples are quite big. So this is the sample that you've got right here. So you have about 9 millimeters here, maybe 1.2 millimeters in width here for the gold, for the vein. So here you can see this is at the end. So it is this one right here at the end of this part right there. And you could see the specks of gold that are in this sample. So here the specks of gold are here, here, and here. So the diameters are less than 0.5 millimeters. So it's quite small. I don't know if I can bring that to you. People always like to see. So I took pictures of this area here. See if I can get a good angle. So here you could see the little specks of gold shining. Let's see if I can find a good angle. There you go. So right here. Perfect. So there you go. So here we have a quartz vein. And what was interesting with that is that you can see here we have gold. We had some pieces of pyrite right here. And you also had galena along the fractures here. So pyrite is an iron sulfide. We have here galena, that is a lead sulfide. And only when there was lead in the vein could we find some gold. So that was so as you can see, I did slice it, and you could see the trace of the saw right here. And not all samples returned with gold. When we came back to the office, we did several slices, hoping that we could find something here. And if I remember well, it was part of a road trip. I had about 20 different rocks I wanted to check, and that's the only one that had gold here. So here with the sun, you could see the sun reflected on the same three flakes, and there's a little one right here as well. Perfect. So here's another example. So you could see here we have pyrite, we have gold, and galena. So here what's interesting is that once we are in an environment where erosion happens, the rock breaks down, the quartz breakdowns, and then you end up with these small gold nuggets. And that's what we find in Creek. Now, some of you will say, well, how come this was not a big mine? So keep in mind that even though we can see some gold on a 1 centimeter wide quartz vein, what happens is that in order to go and get that 1 centimeter wide vein, we have to mine maybe 1 meter or 1.5 meters in width to be able to get access to this quartz vein. So when people are doing prospection, some drilling must have happened since that time. So that was in the 1990s. And so what happened is that when you go and you drill and you find gold, you always have to look at the two sides. There's some value in the mineral value here with respect to gold, but also how much would it cost to go and get it? If it's at the surface and you just blast a few holes, that's easy. But if you have to go underground, then that costs a lot more. money. Then, and maybe one day I'll have to go and see if I can drive around and see if some more mineral exploration has happened since that time. So here's another example, another angle right here. And here's another angle. So that's a nice one. Some pictures I took this morning so you could see the gold specks. You could see the pyrite cubes on the vein, and you can see here in dark gray the galena, which is the lead sulfide. So these are the samples I wanted to share with you today. Perfect. And I make it bigger so we can have a nice pictures right here. Perfect. And this will be the second video I have for us for our live today. If you have any questions related to gold, related to the samples I've presented, or related to any science topics, I'll be more than happy to read your comments in the section below. And don't forget that I do use your comments as ways for me to give ideas for more videos for us. On this, if you have any questions, you put a question in the comments as I mentioned below. And I'm going to put here, let's see if I can move, go back here. Perfect. I'm going to put here a link to a playlist I'm starting to build about mineralogy and different samples I have at home. I'll see you right there.